Hello, old friends and new friends. Welcome to my channel. I'm Box Bandy. I'm a nomad. I've been a nomad most of my life, off and on. I'm 70 years old. I've been living full-time off-grid for almost 6 years. I started out living in a car, moved up to a cargo trailer, and then this box van. I have videos on my channel telling you who I am, where I've come from, how I've struggled, and how I overcome adversity. My channel is about how to survive. I try to inspire people to believe in themselves, to have faith in God, and love their neighbors. So I've been thinking a lot lately about what would I do in case of a disaster or an emergency. I put out a premiere today talking about that subject and some of the things I might do are things that I'm working on. So today is kind of a follow-up of that premiere. If you haven't watched it, go back and watch it. It's pretty short, but it kind of prepares you for what I'm going to be talking about this next month or so. So first of all, let me say, don't get panicky. The world is not coming to an end. However, I do think it's a good idea to be ready as much as possible in our circumstances for something that could happen. We cannot cover every possibility. There's no way we can be prepared for every possibility. Just we can do what we can. I live in a van and I am on the road quite a bit. Not so much the last few months, but I have been on the road for 6 years, almost. So I need to think about those things. As a van lifer, I have to do things differently than I would have to do it in a house. So I have to be prepared in advance before I travel so I can know what to do. The first thing I do when I face an obstacle, have a difficulty, or are in a crisis is I talk to my Heavenly Father. I believe that He can give guidance in any situation. Not everybody believes in God. Wish they did. But that's what I do, and I believe He's helped me through so many trials. In the premiere I did yesterday about dealing with disasters and being prepared, I talked about a few things that would be coming up. So today is the start. Today I will be talking about our water. I don't have a fancy water system filtering my water. Usually for drinking water, I just buy water. But if it comes to being difficult, actually this year I've had many times I've gone to buy gallons of water in the store. They didn't even have it. So it could get that way or even worse, who knows. But I need to have a way to filter water for drinking. And I can create a simple system. Purified water is really just clean water that has been purified to take out the bacteria and germs. So really the best way to purify water is boiling water. Bring it to a rapid boil for about anywhere from 1 to 3 minutes. Don't boil it away. And so that's all you have to do to really purify your water. Filtering, you can run through any kind of, I'll come up with an idea. I'll give you some ideas later on how I set up my filter system. Needs to be simple, needs to be inexpensive, and needs to be small for my van, for anybody that's on the road in a small rig. So that's what I'm going to work on. Now let's talk about the water. We need to know where our water supplies are. Where are your lakes? rivers, streams, creeks, water storage facilities at? If you're on the road, where are these sources on the trip? Fill up before you get to your destination because you may not be able to get them afterwards. So I need to share some things I found out around here. Well, the sun is out. It's gonna get a little bright in here. I'll try to keep it shaded a little bit. Um, so when people like me who live in the desert area uh, live in our rigs and on the road a lot, we are very conscientious about, first, our water conservation, and secondly, our environment. So we find ways to conserve on water. I don't do dishes every day. If I just have a few items, I'll just use a spray bottle with vinegar, usually half and half solution. Some people use alcohol, some people use different things like that. When I do have to do dishes in the sink, literally, I'll just put a little pot of water in the bottom of the sink, put my uh, an environmental friendly dish soap in there, scrub my dishes, and use my teapot with boiling water, just pour it over to rinse them, and it also disinfects and keeps off all bacteria on your dishes. So that's the way I do dishes. I do not take showers at all when I'm in the desert unless I'm in my RV park. I take bucket baths. Usually never more than a couple of quarts of water to clean from all the way from my head to the toe, except my hair, which I only wash once a week. So that takes 2 quarts for my short hair. A lot of You'll notice a lot of nomads have short hair because water is an issue. So you don't want to have to go get 5 gallons of water just to wash your hair. Most nomads don't do laundry in their rigs. Some do, but unless they have large holding tanks, usually we go to the laundromats. I go once every 2 weeks. I'm one of those lucky people. I don't perspire very much. Mostly if I do, it's from my head and my neck, my face. The heat gets to me and I drip. But from here down, I rarely perspire. I can't say never, but rare. So unless my clothes are really soiled, I can wear them several days. Pants sometimes a week. Sounds gross to people that are used to being able to change their clothes at least every day or several times a day. It's hard to be a glamper when you live in the desert with limited water supply. Done some research on YouTube and checking out finds a way to survive if you don't have water. So in the desert, there are ways to find water. First of all, you need to be aware that in the desert you can dehydrate very easily. It's dry, some areas are humid, but most of the desert is dry heat, at least the lower desert. You don't want to get out there in the heat, in the high sun, and start looking for water. If you need to find water source, because your life does depend on it, you can only live 3 days without water, and maybe less if you're dehydrated. So there are sources in the desert, hard to find sometimes, but you can find water. So if you're going to get out to look for water, in emergency, you will have to do that. Um, Stay in the shaded areas up close to the cliffs and boulders and mountains. Follow a wash. The water runs downhill, so you'll follow the wash and look for a moist area close to the edge of the cliff or a mountain. If you find a moist area, take a heavy rock or a shovel if you have one with you, and dig down about 12 to 13 inches. you should be able to tell if the ground is moist under the surface. If you see a lot of moisture and you see a little water flow, it'll start to seep to the top. If you don't find there, go down another 100 yards or whatever, 100 feet further on your path and dig another hole. If the ground seems moist, it's pretty good odds eventually you will find a water source. In the desert, you can go up into the cliffs and boulders and find sometimes indentations in the rocks where if after a rain even, it'll accumulate water. Sometimes right in those cliffs and water, you'll see a little stream or a little tiny water spring. If you see water dripping off of the boulders, you can get a container and set your container under that drip and catch some water. Um, so keep in mind the animals looking for water too. So look for rodents, snakes, or animals that are around that water source if you find one. Be careful because you don't want to get injured. And also be careful climbing on the boulders. They can be a little treacherous. If you look around and follow the cliffs, you can just kind of follow the direction that the water flow would go. Another thing is in the desert, you want to do this early in the day, very early in the day, with it while it's still cool, or close to sunset after it's cooled down quite a bit. That's the best way to keep from having heat stroke or heat exhaustion. Um, in the desert, watch for the wildlife. Watch where the animals most go. The bigger the animal you follow, the better chance you might have of finding a water source. There is water streams and things like that in the desert, but they're few and far between. If you see a big copse of trees, a lot area there's a lot of greenery, a lot of wildlife. That's a good place to check. So if you see areas where there's like cottonwoods or willows or thinking the other kinds of trees, you can find water around. But if there's trees growing and there's really green bushes and stuff and a lot of them in one area, you probably would find the best source of water in those areas. So if you find cottonwoods, if you check between the roots, dig down a little bit. If you see a light or a moist area that looks like moist, dig down about, I don't know, 4 or 5 inches. Build a bowl in that area with your tool, whatever you're using, and wait for a little while and see if the water seeps up. If it does, then you have found some water. Um, there are some plants in the desert you can get moisture from. Some cactus, you can drink the moisture from the flowers. But I would only recommend this if you know the cactus or the plants that you can do this with. Be very careful. You can kill yourself if you eat the wrong things or drink the wrong things. So the best thing is if you find a water source, gather as much of the water as you possibly can. You can draw water from the leaves on the plants. Soak it up in a towel. If you find a water source, take what you have. If you have to take your shirt off, soak up the water, squeeze it into a container, and then, you know, if you possibly can, if you have with you a way to boil the water, then you're going to be able to purify it. If you can't, if you have some kind of um, iodine tablets or things like that, you can purify the water. Or a water bladder with a filter. A lot of people out in the desert carry a little water bladder that has like they call the life straw. So those will filter out all the impurities and bacteria and germs. You want to filter the water before you put them in there. It'll get all clogged up. So dirty water can be drank if you filter it and then purify it. So if you're on the verge of death from dehydration and passing out and things like that, hopefully you have a partner, but if you don't, drink the water a little bit because it is a matter of life and death. Worry about what you can do once you get rescued. I would recommend if you out there, please try to have somebody with you. If you're traveling in a group, I rarely anymore travel by myself. I always did, but I realize these days, I'm at 70 years old, it's not really that safe to travel completely alone. So I'm gonna travel, and if I'm gonna get stranded without water, it's better to have a partner, because then you can look out for each other. So that's my recommendation. You may never find yourself in a position you are completely without water or water sources. However, if you do, it's good to be prepared. If you found value from this video and you enjoyed what you heard, please comment below. If you have ideas you can share with us, please do so. I would like to include some of the comments I get from these videos in my live streams or premieres or other videos. So I appreciate your help. I want to help people know how to survive. Let's do this. Let's share the love. In the description below this video, you'll find links to my Amazon wish list and my other links for supporting me on this journey. So it's not required, it's not expected, but it is appreciated. So thank you for all your support. Thank you for watching my videos.